Live from Melbourne, this is 7 Afternoon News with Mike Amor and Rebecca Maddern.
Good afternoon. First at 4, we've heard from mushroom poisoning survivor Ian Wilkinson for the first time since the deadly lunch 6 months ago.
The pastor told his congregation his faith has given him strength as he marks milestones without wife Heather. Paul Dowsley is in Corumburra.
This was an emotional moment for Corumburra Baptist Church pastor Ian Wilkinson in front of his congregation again 6 months after his world was turned upside down and it became world headlines. Mr Wilkinson was one of the guests at an infamous lunch last July, hosted by his estranged daughter-in-law, Erin Patterson. 3 guests ended up dead from alleged food poisoning, death-cap mushrooms, believed to have been used in a beef Wellington. The victims who died were his wife Heather, her sister Gail and Gail's husband Don. Mr Wilkinson survived but was in a coma and in hospital for months. He attended his wife's memorial service in October, but this is the first time he's been seen speaking about what happened and how he has coped. On Sunday last week, his first sermon after his wife died was also a celebration of 25 years of service as the local pastor. And it was particularly emotional because it was just a day after he marked his first wedding anniversary without his wife Heather by his side.
This has been a pretty big week in my life. At the start of the week was 6 months since Heather and Gail and Don went to be with the Lord. Wednesday was the day, the anniversary day of my induction as pastor. Friday was my birthday, turning 70, and yesterday was our 45th wedding anniversary. So it's been a pretty big week.
Not surprisingly, Mr Wilkinson said his faith has given him comfort and the strength to push forward.
Let me encourage you to keep on going. The way is sometimes hard, but God is good.
Erin Patterson was charged in November over the deaths. She is facing 3 counts of murder, 5 of attempted murder. Her committal hearing to determine whether she will face a trial is scheduled to start in May.
4 people are in hospital after being struck by lightning near the Opera House during a freak storm. They were sitting under a tree near the entrance to the Botanic Gardens when a storm cell rolled across Sydney earlier this afternoon. A teenage boy, a woman in her 20s and a man and woman in their 30s were knocked unconscious when the lightning struck. They were all taken to hospital with burns.
A judge has become emotional while imposing a huge fine in Victoria's first case of workplace manslaughter. Laith Hannah was behind the wheel of a forklift when it toppled over and crushed a 25-year-old subcontractor. The judge found Hannah failed to follow safety protocols.
No penalty is ever going to assist this family in getting on with their lives because they've lost a very important member of their family.
Hannah was also sentenced to a 2-year community corrections order and must pay $120,000 to the victim's family.
The opposition is accusing the government of underfunding Border Force after 40 asylum seekers arrived on Australian shores. As Ben Downey reports, Peter Dutton expects more boats will be on their way.
Peter Dutton says this recent arrival is an attempt by people smugglers to test Australian borders and is now predicting the people smuggling trade to ramp up. Speaking on Sunrise, the opposition leader says the government has underfunded Border Force to the tune of $600 million, leading to a reduced number of surveillance flights above Australian waters. But it's comments like this from Peter Dutton the government says actively undermines our border security, accusing the opposition of trying to weaken our borders for its own political gain. It's not actually underfunding either. Instead, the money is a contingency Border Force can dip into during an emergency, the kind that simply hasn't occurred in the past few years, so the money has been returned to the budget bottom line. Even though the 40 asylum seekers have now been flown directly to Nauru from Western Australia for offshore processing, it hasn't stopped the talk of people smuggling trade restarting.
All those asylum seekers were straight on a plane to Nauru, and the only person who would be helping the people smugglers right now is Peter Dutton. He could be running their advertising campaign.
Well, nobody's politicising the issue. I think we're pointing out the fact that the government is making significant errors here.
In response to this, the Border Force commander says nothing has changed and warned critics that any alternative narrative will be exploited by people smugglers.
Rail workers have been caught out doctoring timesheets and ripping off taxpayers while working on the Metro Tunnel project. The Office of the National Rail Safety Regulator found some staff employed by labour hire firm Mawson International falsified timesheets to bump up pay. Construction companies were also billed for so-called ghost shifts that were never filled.
The contractor that was involved was stood down and is no longer part of the project. Obviously, what is alleged to have happened, and indeed in some cases been found to have happened, is completely inappropriate.
The regulator says none of the breaches uncovered had any impact on rail safety. Meanwhile, the opposition is calling for a parliamentary inquiry into last week's power emergency. The inquiry would look into the reliability of the state's energy distribution, how the supply crisis was handled, and the cost of maintaining electricity networks.
So much of this could either have been mitigated or possibly even averted. This inquiry is something that Jacinta Allen should be doing, but her government is not doing. So we will. 6,000
properties are still without power.
Taylor Swift has touched down in Sydney following her record-breaking shows in Melbourne. Hundreds of thousands packed the MCG over 3 nights, with thousands more partying without incident in Yarra Park. Melina Saris has been following Swift mania as it sweeps the country.
It's the end of an era. Taylor Swift has now left Melbourne and arrived in Sydney earlier this afternoon after her 3 sold-out, record-breaking shows at the MCG. It was a swift exit. Her convoy left Crown just before midday and headed towards the private jet base at Tullamarine. When she boarded her private plane, she was wearing a cap from the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl win, the team her boyfriend Travis Kelce plays for. She's left Melbourne sunshine for some gloomy Sydney weather, touching down during storms which turned the harbour city grey. Her MCG shows were the biggest of her career. 96,000 people were at each of the 3 shows. She posted to her 281 million Instagram followers this morning saying, "Melbourne, that was unforgettable. Thank you for the memories. I'll revisit the ones from this weekend often." Outside the stadium last night, tens of thousands of ticketless fans gathered. Despite the huge crowds inside and out, police were really pleased they didn't have any issues or arrests.
The math is that it's 288,000 people in 3 nights. Melbourne, you're the love of my life.
Taylor Swift now has 3 days off before her first show in Sydney on Friday. It will be her last stop in Australia on the Eras tour.
Mel, thank you. Pro-Palestine protesters are in their 9th hour of sitting on the roof of a Bayswater factory. The group claims the business is supplying the Israeli Defence Force with parts for its weapons it alleges are being used to commit genocide against Palestinians.
This business has nothing to do with that, is my understanding. They don't seem to have a leader and they're a little bit irregular and disorganised. The occasional chance they're not really willing to engage with police.
Free Palestine! Hands off Rafah!
These guys are achieving nothing, mate. Just need to get out and get a job. Everyone else out here working, they're stopping people, they've sent staff home. People have got families to feed. These guys are doing absolutely nothing. Best thing we can do is go drag them off the roof.
Police say they have damaged the building and exposed police to asbestos. 7 News has contacted the business for comment.
The amount of money required for a home deposit has soared. Next, the new figures prompting calls for help for first home buyers.
Risque costume that has an Olympic hopeful in trouble.
And later, the online platforms helping people turn odd jobs into big bucks.
You're watching 7's Afternoon News. Please stay with us. People purchasing homes need to save tens of thousands of dollars more for a deposit than they did 5 years ago. Experts blame the cost of living crisis and are calling on the government to extend help schemes to more first home buyers. Joining us now is buyers advocate Kate Bakos. Kate, good to see you. Just how much do first home buyers need to save to buy a median house price in Melbourne?
Well, it's a differential of $40,000 on the basis of a 20% contribution. So that has changed in the last couple of years. It has become much harder.
The average age of first home buyers in Australia, Kate, is 36. Why is it getting harder for people to save this kind of money?
There's a combination of reasons. It's not just all about the money. We've also got a casualised workforce compared to decades ago. We've got people that are working in the gig economy. We've got a lot of people on contract work as opposed to employment contracts, and lenders don't necessarily favour that kind of work. So it's a lot harder in terms of getting credit as well.
I just wanted to pick you up on that because every generation, yours and mine, our parents have always complained that it's getting harder to buy a house. Is it actually true, or is this just a complaint that we all have?
Look, it is a bit of a debate between the generations, but the reality is that there are some compelling reasons why it's tough in this climate. And to my point earlier, getting credit when your work is not the same as what it might have been decades ago is definitely a challenge. But if we think about the pressure that first home buyers are under while they're saving their deposit, they're looking at higher rents, higher household costs these days. And so that's certainly having an impact on their ability to save.
Kate, new data shows almost 1 in 3 Australians reached out for government assistance last year. Should both state and federal governments be doing more to help people get into the property, onto the property ladder?
I think they should. We're doing a few things really well, in my view. We've got the first home guarantee, which helps people get into the property market with a lesser deposit. And we've also got stamp duty concessions on offer. But the problem with some of these opportunities is that they're limited in number. So we only have a certain number of places. I think having more first home guaranteed places would be a really good start. And I think we also need to have a look at our stamp duty concession thresholds. They've been sitting on a sliding scale with $600,000 purchase, letting a first home buyer get into the market without having to pay stamp duty, and all the way up to $750,000. But after that amount, there's no stamp duty concession. And I think we need to see that increase because property values have increased. And there are plenty of first home buyers out there that are looking at properties that are over $750,000. And we've also got some shared equity schemes, which I think are great. But again, they're limited in number. So we do need to have a look at opening more places for these types of initiatives.
Kate Bakos, great to see you. Thank you for your time.
An Olympic veteran has been stood down after pictures of him wearing a mankini sent the equestrian world into a spin. Chief reporter Chris Reason explains.
Good afternoon. Well, a fully clothed Shane Rose was back in training today, amazed at how much attention his story has drawn, not only here in Australia, but across the world. The video of the three-time Olympian riding at an equestrian fancy dress event while wearing nothing but a mankini has gone viral. Shane thought it was harmless fun, and so did most of the crowd, but one person took exception and decided to submit a formal complaint. Shane Rose can't believe the reaction, but Equestrian Australia says they have no choice under the rules but to stand him down while they investigate, with fears he could now face a potential sanction or suspension.
Probably my best choice in outfit, but it was all for a bit of fun. A bit disappointing someone can do this, but we live in a strange world these days.
The Wallaby Hill event in the New South Wales Southern Highlands also saw him dress up in a gorilla suit and then in a Duffman beer suit. The larrikin triple Olympic medalist is worried that any suspension could see him miss a critical Paris qualifier in New Zealand in 2 weeks. EA says it will hand down its findings within days, but insiders tell 7 News there's zero chance he will face anything more than a written reprimand. Shane says if there's one good outcome out of all of this, it's that his near bareback ride has brought the sport some quality exposure. Back to you.
Sport is coming up with details on a star footy player bracing for a lengthy ban.
Also, the Tigers throw a lifeline to a former rugby league player.
And the big names come out to play for the NBA All-Star Game.
This is 7's Afternoon News. We're live from Docklands.
Live from Melbourne, you're watching 7's Afternoon News. 21 degrees outside right now. Jane will be here with her forecast. That's coming up later in the hour.
Time now for a look at sport this afternoon. Abbey Gelmi is here. Abbey, a Roos star, is bracing for a big suspension.
Yeah, Beck, the season could be derailed for Taryn Thomas. The North Melbourne midfielder is under investigation over fresh allegations of domestic violence. He was brought in to speak with the AFL's Integrity Unit, with that inquiry reaching its closing stages. All stakeholders are expecting a lengthy suspension of more than half of the season. But the Kangaroos and the AFL say the investigation is still this afternoon ongoing. Meanwhile, Richmond has handed a last-minute rookie deal to a former rugby league player. Laura Spurway is live with all the details. And Laura, this is a unique rise to the AFL for the New Zealander.
It really is, Abbey, and a dream come true for New Zealand-born Makelti Lafau. The 26-year-old today told he'll be added to the Tigers AFL list as part of the pre-season supplementary selection period. Lafau has been training with the club since November after being part of their VFL ranks. He also impressed in yesterday's match sim, kicking a goal against the D's. And it's a great story for someone, of course, who was a development player with the rugby league, in the Melbourne Storm in particular, and he only started playing AFL in his mid-teens. Lafau and his family, of course, blown away by his contract news.
I got it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh! Woo! Let's go!
New Zealanders, Islanders, everyone, I want to try and be that guy that sort of opens a pathway for them, because there's so much like untapped talent there. I believe anyways, like they all got it, but they just need someone to believe in them to do it, because it starts from like grassroots, obviously.
His dad was very chuffed there. Meanwhile, Collingwood's trio of recruits are settling into life with the Pies after signing their rookie deals. Josh Eyre locked in, despite suffering a hamstring injury just a week ago. And encouraging signs for Dan McStay in his road back from an ACL injury. Today, back on the field with the main group for the first time, doing running and kicking drills. No doubt a chance to play this year before finals. At this rate, that's of course all things going well. And at 6, we'll have Tim Watson sit down with Richmond's new coach Adam Uze about his ambitions for the season ahead and the massive changes he's already made at Punt Road. Plenty happening in footy today, Abbey.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Laura. David Warner has arrived for his final tour of New Zealand with a lesson in morals for Kiwi cricket fans. The full-strength Australian squad received a warm but windy welcome to Wellington, though it hasn't always been that pleasant for Warner.
Yeah, they got personal, but if they have to get personal, that's their character. If you want to pay your money to come and abuse people, then, you know, you have to go back and lay in your own bed.
Warner confirmed he's sticking with his plan to retire from international cricket after the T20 World Cup in June. Australia finished with 2 gold medals on the final day of swimming's World Championships. Isaac Cooper topped the podium in the 50 metres backstroke, beating American world record holder Hunter Armstrong by 0.2 seconds. With Paris in his sights, Cooper claimed his first individual gold on the world stage.
It's awesome. I mean, I've been waiting a very long time to be able to stand on a long course podium. The execution can definitely get better, but that's an awesome swim.
The women's 4x100 metre medley relay team also struck gold, the understrength Australian team's 16th medal in Doha. In the Premier League, Manchester United beat Luton Town 2-1.
Manchester United's first attack produces a goal inside 40 seconds.
Harry Styles watched on as his Red Devils moved to within 5 points of the top 4. 7th place Brighton thrashed a 10-man Sheffield United 5-0. Alex de Minaur will climb to a new career-high ranking as world number 9 after a tight straight sets defeat to Yannick Sinner at the ATP Rotterdam final.
Oh. It's a jaw-dropping exchange.
The Australian Open champion has 7 wins over the Demon, but he concedes the Aussie is becoming very hard to beat. And they created history in the 73rd NBA All-Star Game in what was a record 20th appearance for the King, LeBron James.
21st season, Candace.
At 39, LeBron concedes that the end of his career is approaching, and while not all dunk attempts went to plan, the East won 211 to 186. It's the first time to ever crack the double century. Damian Lillard won the MVP trophy. Now, 39.
Not a lot of defence being played in that.
No, it's all for the spectacle. Let's be honest.
He nearly broke it, though. Thank you very much, Abs. Well, Gippsland's mushroom poisoning survivor speaks publicly for the first time. We will have the latest next.
Also, Geelong's House of Horrors, a woman found living alongside her dead brother's body.
The new trend in side hustles, how people are turning skills into cash to beat the cost of living crunch.
And a deep dive into the Taylor Swift phenomenon, why the world is so obsessed.
We are back in just a couple of minutes' time.
From Melbourne, this is 7 Afternoon News with Mike Amor and Rebecca Maddern.
Welcome back. Video has emerged of the sole survivor of a deadly mushroom lunch that killed 3 people in Korumburra.
Ian Wilkinson returned to his Baptist church for a sermon 6 months after the meal. He told his congregation his faith in God is giving him strength, but it's been a hard week.
At the start of the week, it was 6 months since Heather and Gail and Don went to be with the Lord. Wednesday was the day, the anniversary day of my induction as pastor. Friday was my birthday, turning 70, and yesterday was our 45th wedding anniversary. So it's been a pretty big week.
Mr Wilkinson spent 2 months in hospital recovering after the deadly lunch in Leongatha.
The building regulator has launched disciplinary action against the boss of collapsed construction firm Montego Homes. Let's go live to Tyra Stowers with today's developments. Tyra, he's accused of failing to protect dozens of customers.
Here's Mike at 64 different sites across the state. Now, the Victorian Building Authority says Montego Homes have collected $900,000 worth of deposits without taking out the insurance as required by law. Now, this action follows the appointment of the administrators to the building company. It's collapsed, leaving nearly 100 home buyers in limbo. Now, the VBA has launched an investigation into the company's practices and immediately suspended Montego's Homes director Todd Searle in an attempt to protect future project customers while they are in the disciplinary process is underway. Now, the authority says as the nominated director, he had a duty to ensure the company complied with the regulators. Now, homeowners caught up in the mess are still waiting to find out what will happen to their dream homes. Mike?
Tyra, thank you.
As we reported earlier, Melbourne Swifties waved goodbye to Taylor Swift this morning as she headed to Sydney to continue her Eras tour. Fans from all over the world travelled to Melbourne for 3 sold-out shows from the most prolific and celebrated artist of her generation. To explain the hysteria, we're now joined by RMIT PhD candidate Kate Patterson. Kate, really appreciate your time. You are probably, I don't know, one of the only people on the planet doing a PhD on the pop star. What is it about Taylor Swift that has her fans in such a frenzy?
I think the thing with Taylor is that she's just always had this real ability to connect with people. We obviously know she's a great songwriter and she's been able to do that with her songs, but also the way that she's just constantly engaged her fans over the last 18 years of her career. She's always made a point of using social media and other platforms to keep them updated, and I think because she's so loyal to them, likewise we see that the fans have just really been loyal to her over her career, and that audience has grown up with her, but she's also accumulated just even more fans over the last few years as well.
Do you think that is a clever marketing team, strategic, or do you think that in essence is her?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think she really does care and wants to, you know, have that connection with the people that support her and have supported her over all this time. But also, as we've seen, it's done really great things for her from a marketing perspective as well. You know, she's always been really clever with releasing multiple versions of different albums and vinyls for fans to collect. There's always merchandise. And I think with the re-recordings, we really saw that by her really maintaining this relationship with her fans, then they really got behind these kind of riskier business decisions that she's made, and I think without that support she might not have been able to re-record those albums or do some of the things that she's done over the last few years. So I think it's definitely paid off, but I mean, look, I'm a fan, so I like to think that it's genuine.
I assumed you were a fan, otherwise you wouldn't spend half your life studying her. We've all seen the pictures of the tens of thousands of fans who actually couldn't get a ticket. They're singing along to her songs outside the MCG. How is her fan base contributing to her success? I suppose I'm asking you, why are they so loyal in this pretty much fickle world?
I think that's the thing. I think we've all just needed a little bit of joy lately. I think particularly after the pandemic, you know, everybody wants to get out, experience live music, and obviously we saw the demand for Taylor tickets was just unprecedented, and so unfortunately not everybody was able to go along. But as we saw with the Taylor gating, as it was called at the MCG, you know, fans still had the opportunity to get together, and I think Swifties are such a welcoming community. They're trading friendship bracelets, you know, they're getting involved, they're listening outdoors as well. Like, I think what she does is really facilitates that sense of community, and I think, you know, who doesn't want to do that on a Friday or Saturday night? And so, yeah, I think her music is great, but I think also more than that, it's really brought people together over this last week, which as the City of Melbourne has been fantastic.
I think it's much more than that. Just finally, what are you hoping to achieve with your PhD?
Well, I think for a long time, sort of wider society has kind of dismissed fangirls as, you know, oh, they're just hysterical, or they're just, you know, they should be doing other things with their time. And so I've been really interested in looking at kind of the other aspects of fandom and how it could be beneficial, and looking at those high levels of engagement that we see from fans. And so Swifties are, of course, a wonderful case study. So I'm really interested to see where it takes me, particularly with all of the hype around Taylor of the last couple of weeks.
Indeed. I don't think there's anything wrong with celebrating joy and happiness. Kate Patterson, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's emerged a Geelong woman had been living beside her brother's corpse, potentially for several years. Police located the man's body inside a Newtown Housing Commission unit in December 2022. The unit has been cleared but remains empty. One neighbour claims the body may have been inside the home for up to 5 years. The man's cause of death hasn't been made public.
Thousands of Aussies are turning small odd jobs into big bucks to combat the cost of living crunch. Side hustle platforms are helping people get started. Sunrise consumer correspondent Sean White explains.
He's the Airtasker Crusader. Mitchell Pettivoli is making a mozza from undertaking pre-purchase car inspections and saving you from getting scammed when you're buying a new car. And it's all through online marketplace Airtasker, where users outsource everyday tasks.
I've done over 700 jobs on there, so I just say, hey, this is my price, look at my reviews. If you're happy, let's connect and let's get the job done.
For Mitch, it means working at his pace whenever he wants and at whatever the price. So just how much extra cash does he make?
Probably at least $5,000 a month.
Having worked as a mechanic, Mitch learnt what to look out for when purchasing a car and saw how some buyers are easily fooled by crafty sellers.
A lot of people don't know, or they just get caught up in the moment and they just, or they put a deposit on it without even, looking at it.
From a false odometer reading to selling a write-off, Mitch has seen it all, but he's now saving families from falling victim to a dodgy deal.
A lot of them are surprised that this could happen, but to be honest, it's something that happens regularly. One guy the car said it had, 60,000 Ks on it, and I hooked my computer system up to it and it said it had 206,000 Ks on it.
So what should you look out for if you don't have a Mitch in your local area?
Ask the person how long they've owned the car for. A logbook is always handy. Physically inspecting the car, have a quick look underneath, see if there's any leaks. Make sure everything inside the car works.
And if you're thinking about signing up to Airtasker, here's where your skills might be put to good use. Delivery and removals top the list for the most in-demand categories. Handiwork, cleaning, gardening and electrical work round out the top 5. If you're looking for what pays the most, a tradesperson averages nearly $570 per job. The rest of the highest paid categories include handy and electrical work, photography or videography, and business or admin work. All increasingly popular side hustles to the regular 9 to 5. Sean White, 7 News.
A federal MP denies being drunk in Parliament despite a viral video that is coming up next.
Also calls for urgent action to address a chronic shortage of GPs.
And trouble for tourists as the Eiffel Tower is shut down.
Stay with us here on 7's Afternoon News. Doctors are getting in early and calling on the federal government to address the critical health worker shortage in the May budget. Joining us now is the President of the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners, Nicole Higgins. Nicole, thank you for joining us. You want more investment in GP training. Can you tell us what your plan is and how it would address the problem?
Afternoon, Mike. We need to ensure that we have a future GP workforce. We know that we're facing critical shortages across the whole sector, not just general practice, but our nurses and pharmacists as well. 11,000 short by 2032 for GPs. What we need to do is get those doctors that are working in the hospital out into the community where they're needed to do their specialist training. They don't want to leave because it's not the same amount of support money, paid parental leave, etc. And then we need to get those doctors who want to work in Australia out to the communities, rural and regional, who need them the most.
Nicole, the World Health Organization is predicting a shortfall of 10 million healthcare providers by 2030. How critical is the GP shortage here at the moment? Because obviously this is a global problem.
Yeah, so when I trained, about 40% of medical graduates became GPs. It's now down to just under 14%. And that's because the successive governments have devalued and defunded general practice. We know, though, that like all good foundations, they require investment. And last year was a good shot in the arm, but we need to make sure that we continue to grow our own and look at how attractive. Let's recruit and retain the ones that we already have.
One of the problems, we've seen a number of GP clinics forced to close because of high costs and no staff. Do you expect to see more of this, Nicole?
As a practice owner, it's really challenging not only recruiting our team, so we are calling for support so the community general practice can compete with our hospitals for nurses, administrative staff, and have our healthcare teams in general practice. But one of the other issues, especially in Victoria, is payroll tax, and that's really, that's taxing Medicare. That's going to make things even harder.
Nicole Higgins, good to see you. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Good luck.
Thanks, Mike. Cheers.
The Eiffel Tower is set to close as workers go on strike. Union members are demanding a review of the financial management of the monument ahead of the Olympic Games. They say city officials are underestimating the cost of maintenance and repair work, placing more pressure on employees. It will be the second time in a month staff have shut down the city's most popular attraction, inconveniencing 6 million visitors.
Rescue teams in Turkey have released underwater video appearing to show the interior of a ship that sank in an inland sea off Istanbul earlier this week. A search is underway for 6 crew members who were on board the 69-metre cargo vessel when it was caught in a storm and went down. 2 police officers and a paramedic have been shot and killed in the US. The first responders were attending a domestic violence incident when the gunman barricaded himself inside his home. He was killed in a gunfight shortly after. 7 children were among 5 family members inside the home at the time, but no one else was injured.
King Charles has stepped out in Sandringham to attend church. His Majesty arrived at the service in Norfolk with Queen Camilla. Despite his ongoing cancer treatment, the pair appeared to be in good spirits, smiling and waving at onlookers through the rain. The monarch is expected to return to London tomorrow for further treatment. The Deputy Leader of the Nationals, Perrin Davey, has denied being drunk during a Senate hearing. Video of Ms Davey slurring her words during the hearing has gone viral. She says she only had 2 glasses of red wine at a staff function.
PAs are still getting their funding, which is good, because they deserve it. Let me take nothing away. They absolutely, this is Australians' culture.
It comes a week after video surfaced of former Nationals leader Barnaby Joyce lying under the influence on a Canberra footpath. Hollywood's awards season is gathering pace in the lead up to the Oscars. Next, we'll see how Australian hopefuls fared at the BAFTAs.
And Jane Bunn will have her weather forecast. We're back soon.
Margot Robbie and the Barbie movie have left another awards ceremony empty-handed. They were overlooked at the BAFTAs in London as Oppenheimer dominated once again. Europe Bureau Chief Hugh Whitfeld was there.
It's always the one thing Hollywood can't deliver on, that is real royalty. Prince William here at the Royal Festival Hall. He is president of BAFTA, but without the Princess of Wales tonight. Of course, she is continuing to recover from her abdominal surgery. So without his Kate, our Kate, Kate Blanchett stepping in to keep Prince William company. Margot Robbie was nominated for the Leading Actress Award. She missed out, though, to Emma Stone. Poor Things picking up 5 awards, but the big winner tonight, Oppenheimer, with 7 BAFTAs, including leading actor for Cillian Murphy, supporting actor for Robert Downey Jr., best director for Christopher Nolan, and best film.
I want to thank my fellow nominees and my Oppenhomies. That was a rhyme.
It was a bit of a bust night for the Aussies, but there were a few nominated, including Jacob Elordi and Sophie Wilde for the Rising Star Award, essentially Best New Talent. Sophie Wilde enjoying the ride of her life after starring in Boy Swallows Universe.
When I walked in, I was like, I'm at the BAFTAs. Like, that's insane. Yeah, I feel like it's all been a pinch me moment, really.
Amazing. Is there anything else you want to say hello to anyone back home?
Oh my God, yes. Hello to my friends and my family. I love you.
Good luck tonight, Sophie. We're all backing you in.
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much.
On stage, Sophie Ellis-Bextor performing Murder on the Dance Floor. That song enjoying quite the revival after its part in the iconic final scene of Saltburn. Sophie Ellis-Bextor headed down under in the next couple of days. She'll be performing at the Sydney Mardi Gras.
Let's take a quick look at Melbourne's roads right now.
Good afternoon, it's James in the police online reporting traffic chopper. We're currently above the Ring Road Altona bound, which is absolutely crawling due to a crash at Pascoval Road, just as you head through the Jacana Tunnel. As you can see, the right-hand lane is currently closed there with speeds dropped down to 40, delays at a standstill all the way back to the Hume Freeway. You can now report crime online anywhere, anytime. When you need the police, but not the sirens, search report online or visit police.vic.gov.au. Authorised by the Victorian Government, Melbourne. Have a great night.
Thank you, James. Well, tourists have had a close encounter with a pair of grey whales, the group patting the majestic mammals and even giving one a kiss before saying goodbye. Grey whales can grow up to 15 metres in length and are said to be the friendliest of the whale species.
On this sunny Monday afternoon, Jane Bunn joins us now. Jane, it's heating up this week.
Micah, this is the end of that cooler stretch of weather. Temperatures are jumping up from tomorrow. It has been below average since Wednesday last week. Today reached a top of 22 in the city as grey skies slowly turn to sunshine. It is a few degrees higher in northeastern suburbs, but those on the bay are experiencing a cool and gusty wind. This morning's clouds stretched across Gippsland and south central parts and just at the southwest coast. It cleared most of the south during the afternoon, while some thunderstorms did pop up here on the eastern ranges coming in through there. Only local activity here, not like the widespread activity further up the east coast. West of Wangaratta, there is barely a cloud in the sky before wispy high cloud arrived late this afternoon. Mild at the coast and warm inland. A trough brings the storms to our north while we remain on the mild side of the high. The remains of Cyclone Lincoln up there, they are crossing the northwest, while the high is jumping out to our east. We'll see it move eastwards as we move through the day there tomorrow. The storms do continue in the eastern states with a bit coming into Victoria. Significant rain follows the remains of that cyclone. That could reform as it moves off the northwest coast this week. Then the rain comes down into the south. You can see the path there affecting those parts of Western Australia. Temperatures jump up tomorrow as winds turn northeasterly. The heat is on for Wednesday and Thursday, extreme in the northwest. But here is the next stormy cool change. You can see it moving through there, reaching Melbourne on Thursday afternoon. And that leaves us all on the cool side to end the week. Around the nation tomorrow, there is the high risk of showers and thunderstorms in Brisbane, Sydney and Canberra. Hobart jumping up to 25, Adelaide in the low to mid-30s. Perth's run of heat does come to an end in the morning with a cool change sweeping through. To Victoria, the current wispy high cloud should thicken overnight. Storms increase tomorrow, not just up on the ranges, but they are a risk in much of eastern Victoria, just coming into central parts. But it is all dry across the west. Temperatures rise slightly above average, heading to 35 in Mildura, 27 in Geelong, 27 in Sale, 21 still in Portland. In Melbourne, the outer eastern suburbs are likely to see afternoon showers and thunderstorms. The rest of us only have the slight risk. It is generally dry, but temperatures, they are rising. It should jump up to about 28 in the city. Mike and Beck.
Okay, thanks. Coming up in our 6 o'clock bulletin with Peter Mitchell, breaking news on Melbourne's tobacco wars, plus Australia's new financial phenomenon, the nan and pop effect as baby boomers bail out young generations. A generous billionaire makes young dreams come true. And in sport, Tim Watson's revealing one-on-one interview with new Tigers coach Adam Uze. It's all ahead in 7 News at 6 with Peter Mitchell.
And that is all from Melbourne's afternoon news. Thank you very much for joining us.
For now, from the 7 News team, enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7 Plus and with 7news.com.au. You'll know the news now.